You are North Gallery's Campus FM, and we have the very great pleasure of having in the studio this afternoon with us from the Waimakariri District Council, Manager of Community and Recreation, Chris Brown. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come in this afternoon and have a chat with us on air about the long-term plan. A big document. I guess there's a lot in it that ideally we're asking people to feed back on this, aren't we? This is what we're wanting from the community.
We are. We want the community to give us information about whether or not we've got it right and
if they have any ideas to the contrary. So, Chris, what is the main focus for the council in this long-term plan?
Well, we've got a growing population. We've got more people moving into the district, so we need to make sure that we provide the right infrastructure and the right facilities for people, and we need to make sure that we do that in an affordable way. It's a long plan that takes 10 years, so we need to make sure that that's affordable for people over that time.
So I guess there are things in the long-term plan which may not necessarily fit within the immediate future. So do you often have to defer projects? Do you find the things that come off that long-term plan or just get put out?
We often defer projects. We can defer them because of the fact that things have changed in the community that we predicted would happen, but also bearing in mind the community's ability to pay for things. Sometimes we defer projects because we want to actually keep that rate rise as low as possible and make sure things are affordable.
Yeah, well, of course, that makes absolute sense, doesn't it? But as you said, Waimakariri is growing very fast, especially around those new subdivisions, the Pegasus and Ravenswood areas. What does the council think will be needed there in the longer term?
Look, that's our fastest growing area in the district at the moment, that east of the district, Pegasus and Northwood and Ravenswood area. We know that we're going to need community facilities in that area, community facilities being meeting places for people, halls, that sort of thing, but potentially an aquatic facility in the future as well. So we need to make sure that we buy land so we can build those sorts of things. And the plan at the moment identifies that we would look to purchase land in Pegasus and build a community facility in the next few years, and then in the Northwood and Ravenswood look at buying land now, but actually building something once that community's there and in the later part of that long-term plan, about 8 to 9 years away. Okay,
so significant. Does the council envisage having any presence in these areas, like a satellite presence in the outer community?
At the moment, it's about buying the land to give us options. What happens in 10 years is, we don't know. It's a long way away. And that's why we revisit the long-term plan every 3 years. But there's potential for library services to be incorporated into the Ravenswood Northwood End community facility. But what that looks like could be completely different than what a library looks like now. And then council would also have to look at whether a service centre or something like that might be needed. But that's a long way away. And there's lots of opportunities for us to revise those plans as we get closer to the time.
Absolutely, of course. Now, in Rangiora, there's been discussion of a civic precinct. What can you tell us about that?
For a long time now, we have understood that we need to increase the capacity of the Trevor Inch Memorial Library, the Rangiora Library, to make sure that it actually meets the demands of our growing community. And libraries have changed a little bit in what they provide. It's not just books, it's learning spaces for the community. But alongside that, we've also got the actual civic building itself, which houses the council staff. And we're separated at the moment over 6 sites throughout Rangiora. So bringing those staff back together obviously create some efficiencies. We've looked at both of those projects, and in the long-term plan, we've actually combined those, because if we combine the two projects together, we do create some efficiencies. We've got one project, so there's less administration costs, those sorts of things. It also gives us a better ability to design the space properly in terms of the green spaces that interact with the buildings, the car parking, those sorts of things. So at the moment, the project's been combined, the library and the civic precinct development, and put into the outer years of the long-term plan. But there are, of course, options. It's the reason we want the community to come and talk to us. This is the consultation period for our long-term plan. We want to know whether or not we've got that right, or the community want to push it out even further, or bring it closer and have the library extended and the civic precinct done sooner rather than later. So it's really a matter of timing.
It's timing, yeah. And obviously what those, I guess, is managing priorities in terms of, what can come first. So now parking's been mentioned quite a lot. locally, and of course with a growing population, there is some pressure on parking in Rangiora, or is there? I mean, I often hear people say there isn't enough parking in town. Does the council have any plans with regards to parking?
Yeah, the council regularly undertakes parking surveys in all of our major towns, and it's been identified that we will have a requirement for additional parking, and in the next 30 years we'll require up to 800 car parking spaces if population and development happens as is expected. So the long-term plan already identified some money in there for car parking in outer years, but we've understood that to actually achieve that we need more money in the plan. So it looks at an additional $9 million in 2028 to build a car parking building, and we'd like to know whether the community thinks that we should leave that in that outer year or whether we should do it sooner or later.
And I guess the reason for a car parking building is that it's occupying a smaller footprint. That would be the reason you would go up. How high would it be? I mean, is this too early to ask that question?
Oh, yeah, look, it's too early at the moment. Getting the money in there and making sure that you've got a project in the future to do, and then when you get closer, obviously having a look at what the detailed plans are. But I think that gives us an extra 220 car parks, 280 additional car parks in the current plan, looking at building those in 2028.
So quite sizable number, which is a good addition to our stock. There's a lot for people to consider and of course give feedback on, and I'm assuming that's not everything. There's quite a bit more in there.
There's a lot more in there, a huge amount more. Those are the three main topics that we're asking the community to give us feedback on through our consultation document. But there's a lot of other things in there, from economic recovery from COVID-19, impacts of climate change, respond to government's review of Three Waters, biodiversity, things in there as well. There's lots and lots of different things. There's lots of information to look at. It's a good document, the consultation document to read. And so we want to hear back from everyone, from residents. They've got until the 12th of April to submit their feedback, and they can do that via all the different sorts of media, from grabbing the consultation document or visiting waimakariri.gov.nz.
Can they come into the service centre? They can come and have a look at the plan there?
Come into the service centre. We've got copies available there, and the customer service staff are wonderful, so they'll be
They're brilliant staff. And this is your local government in action, Chris, isn't it? So, this is for people this is your opportunity to have your say in the future of your town. I think it's very important that people indeed take this opportunity. After all, this is the society in which we live, and this is what a democracy is all about, sharing those decisions that need to be made. Thank you very much, Chris Brown, Manager of Community and Recreation at the Waimakariri District Council, for coming in. I have a whole new talk I want to have with you about the Three Waters, because that's an interesting, completely separate topic altogether, and it's going to become more topical as obviously we move towards the changes that are required there. So thanks for coming in this afternoon. We'll book you in again.
Compass FM.